I love Top Gun, it's a great movie. But you thought things like that are only possible in Hollywood? Well, think again, because Hollywood became real. Today, we're gonna talk about a joint Israeli and the United States military masterpiece against Iran. We're gonna talk why this was almost impossible to execute, how complex this operation actually was, what weapons did the United States use to achieve its goals, what happened before this operation, what was the main target of the strike, what evidence can we see of the destruction. We're gonna also talk about the recent information that this attack was in fact a failure. We will highlight Israel's assessment of the goals. And finally, we're gonna talk about what the Bible says. Does it say anything about the confrontation between Israel and Iran? But before we will do that, please remember to subscribe to the channel, like this video and hit that bell button. This is very simple, but it helps me greatly to reach more people. With that out of the way, let's begin. So, to understand actually what happened, we need to go back to October 2024 when Israel launched the operation Days of Repentance. And before this operation, Iran had a pretty good defense. They had the radars, long-range rockets, anti-air systems, of course the Russian S-300, missiles and other stuff. So they were feeling pretty confident. And of course they had a decent, although old, fleet of planes, including the Tomcat F-14s and the Phantom IIs. Those of course are really old US planes, but still the best that Iran had. In the first stage of the operation, Israel eliminated radars in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq and of course Iran. And the key idea here was to make Iran blind so that they don't know what's coming for them. In that operation in October, Israel also targeted a lot of missiles that Iran had, including the highly advanced S-300. How advanced exactly? Well, not advanced enough to stop the highly modified Israeli F-35s. Anyway, this operation was highly successful and it opened an opportunity for Israel to strike this summer. In other words, without the strikes in October, the strikes in June could not have happened. And then came June 13th, Operation Rising Lion.
Israel's military launched a barrage of strikes on Iran overnight.
Israel and Iran attacking each other this Friday night.
In an unprecedented series of attacks, Israel targeted Iran's nuclear facilities and killed several top military commanders.
Israel's war with Iran has entered a new and audacious phase, one scripted in the shadows by Mossad and unleashed in the skies by the Israeli Air Force.
In just 12 days, Israel achieved more than was expected of it. By the end of the war, after those 12 days, Israel was controlling most of the skies in Iran. And although Israel was highly successful decimating Iran's nuclear facilities, scientists and leadership, there still was a major obstacle. For Israel to claim full victory, an Iranian fortress had to be destroyed. The name of this fortress is, of course, Fordo. And even with Israel's brilliant planning and technology, this was something even they could not touch. Hidden deep within a mountain, Iran was developing a nuclear program for years. And on June 12, a day before Israel attacked Iran, a critical report came that Iran is now at a 60% uranium enrichment. And Israel knew that the most advanced gains in uranium enrichment are happening in Fordo, deep under a big mountain. So the clock started ticking, and Israel and the world had just a little bit of time before Iran develops a nuclear weapon. And although the United States have developed a special kind of a bomb, a massive bomb, a penetrator of mountains. But even the United States weren't sure that this weapon will be effective against such a giant bunker. This was the strongest weapon, but the question was, will it work? And the challenge wasn't only about the power of the bomb, but also about precision. You see, not one of those bombs had to be dropped on the mountain, but a series of bombs, and they had to fall one after another in the same spot. An impossible mission, but the only nation that could pull it off was the United States. And on 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, June 21st, President Trump gave an order for the secret mission to begin. From this military base in the state of Missouri, a squadron of 12 B-2 bombers left for one of the most ambitious missions in the history of the world. And the approximate distance that the planes flew, well, this is also impressive. 7,000 miles or over 11,000 kilometers. Of course, they were refueled on their way. Nobody knew about the planes leaving the base in Missouri, but the United States announced that a squadron of planes is going west to confuse the enemy. And once the B-2 stealth bombers arrived to the Middle East, they had to be escorted by United States jet fighter planes that were already in the region on the air carriers that arrived earlier. This includes the F-18 Super Hornets and, of course, the F-35s, the fifth generation planes. And of course, the United States wanted to be extra careful with those B-2 Stealth Spirit bombers because one of them cost over $2 billion. Additionally, you have the cost of the bombs themselves, which is over $3 million. 12 of them were dropped. But the biggest problem and nightmare of the United States would be if one of those bombers would be actually shot down, because that means transfer of technology, first to Iran, then to Russia, and then to China. So the United States couldn't lose even one. The bombs themselves had to be dropped from a very high altitude. And that's because the bombs themselves don't have engines. They guide themselves using mechanical parts at the rear of the bomb. And yet they are very, very precise, using a GPS system that allows them to reach the target that is located miles away from the launched bomb. And because of this extreme precision, those bombs could land one after another in the same exact spot, causing bigger and bigger holes. Eventually, as was planned, to reach the center of this nuclear site. And remember, the facility at Fordo was specifically designed to be protected from the biggest bunker buster bombs. That's why you not only needed one of those bombs to fall exactly where you wanted, but 2, 3 bombs falling exactly where they needed. That was the only way to destroy this evil project. A huge, huge challenge, stretching the human capabilities in military planning. At the same time as the B-2 stealth bombers were hitting their targets at Fordo, another layer of complexity was happening. The 2 aircraft carrier strike groups were in the Middle East, and from the submarines of all things, the United States launched many cruise missiles, Tomahawk cruise missiles, that went to strike the other bases in Iran. The second base that was hit in Iran was a military base and a nuclear site in Isfahan. Here, the Tomahawk missiles finished off what Israel already started when it launched the Rising Lion operation. And because the Tomahawk missiles are also very precise cruise missiles, they caused significant damage to this nuclear facility. And the third target that was hit by the United States was the Natanz nuclear site. And as with Isfahan, this is again the United States finishing off what Israel already started. The Russian and Iranian defense systems were no match for those cruise missiles and the bombs that the United States dropped on this base. Now, let's look at some real photos before and after to assess the damage. So here you can see photo, and on the right you see a picture showing you 3 holes. Those holes were made by the bombs. And because you don't see a lot of damage on the outside, this is a clear indication that a lot of damage happened inside. And that's the whole idea of those weapons, that they do not explode on the outside, they explode inside once they penetrate an object, a mountain, a bunker. So the photos you saw indicate to me that the attack was successful, but we're gonna return to that, so stay tuned. Before I continue, I want to say that most of the animations you saw today in this video, I made myself. It took me hours to create those animations. I do not use AI, I create them myself. That means a lot of work. But I hope you enjoy it, and because of this, they can be very custom. They can be very adequate talking about what happened in Iran. And I want to take a moment to thank everybody who's supporting my channel. You guys are the best. Thanks to you, I can do what I do, and I really enjoy it. Don't take it wrong. It takes me a lot of hours, but I'm having a lot of fun. Having said that, if any one of you newcomers just saw for the first time my video, please consider supporting the channel. This is a great way to support me, a person, a real person, not AI, that is creating custom videos on YouTube. If you would like to do that, I will appreciate it a lot, and the best way to do it is through Patreon and PayPal. Links to those sites you will find in the description of this video. With that out of the way, let's continue. So here's another real satellite image showing you before and after. On your left you have before, and on your right you have after. This is Isfahan. And here, in contrast to Ferdo, we can see a lot of destruction because the destruction was done on the outside. It was done to the structures on the surface. And here are more satellite images showing you this time the third nuclear site, the Natanz nuclear facility. And Natanz combines the previous 2 nuclear sites because it was both targeted by bunker busters, but also the Tomahawk missiles and planes by Israel before. So you have a combination of the damage. Okay, so as promised, let's talk a little bit now about the sensational news that came out right after the United States hit Iran. So some of the news agencies, and you can see here BBC, but also CNN and others, started to spread the information that in fact this attack wasn't as successful and the US strike is gonna set back Iran just a few months. And in fact, the facilities weren't totally destroyed. Now it seems that the narrative again has flipped because there are now reports saying that the CIA is actually saying that this strike was very successful, it did tremendous damage to Iran, and the US senators have also been briefed on the success of this mission. And of course, Trump wasn't happy about this whole news coming out, undermining Trump's decision and also his administration. So there was a lot of going back and forward, and I'm guessing there's still gonna be a lot of that. But there is something very interesting what Trump said. Listen carefully.
They did a report. I could have Pete talk to it because his department did the report. They really don't know. I think Israel's going to be telling us very soon because Bibi is going to have people involved in that whole situation. We hear it was obliteration. It was a virtual obliteration. When you
Okay, let me get this straight. So the United States are counting on Israel to tell them how successful this attack was. That means that Israel still has its agents inside Iran. Wow. The most advanced military in the world are still counting on this small nation, on Israel, to give them precise information how devastating this strike was. I mean, you can say, yeah, Israel is in the Middle East, they have a closer cultural connection, but still, this is pretty huge. And of course, right now, there is a little bit of doubt, you know. You can't be 100% sure that this attack was 100% success. But we should also listen to what Iran is saying itself. And Iran's foreign minister, Mr. Abbas, is saying himself, yeah, it was a big hit, and it did send us back a lot. And you know, you could say that Iran is bluffing right now to avoid further attacks, but if you know the culture, if you know the pride of the Iranian people, well, they would never say that they were hurt. And the other factor that needs to be added to this is that Israel itself is claiming great victory and saying that all the objectives of the Operation Rising Lion have been achieved. So it seems that Israel is happy with the results, and they are quite impressive. Nuclear scientists eliminated, missile systems destroyed, nuclear facilities decimated, and, most importantly, little casualties. I mean, Israel even destroyed the ancient planes that Iran had. I mean, it is a little bit sad. They should be in a museum, you know? That's where they should be. Okay, but there is one element which is very worrying in this operation, and that is what happened before the United States struck Iran. You see, the day before the US struck Iran, there was a lot of activity. Satellite images show trucks going out and in to Ferdo, meaning that something was transported. Now, they were probably not able to transport the facilities. They were deep inside the ground and they're pretty big. What they could transport is uranium, enriched uranium. But the problem for them is that you can't do much with that if you don't have the equipment, which was probably destroyed. Now, what I have promised is that I will also relate the events that happened in Iran, in Israel, to the Bible. And of course, I will do it, but not in this video. And the reason is because this video already took too long for me to create. Really 18 minutes, 19 minutes, but it's hours of work. And I need to leave tomorrow, so I can't finish it up. And I want to do a good job about this topic. So I want you to be patient and we're gonna come back to this. So for today, this is all I got for you. Just one more thing, if you want to be updated daily about what is happening in Israel, in the Middle East, make sure to subscribe to my social channels. Those are run by my brother, who's doing a great job. So if you want to stay connected, this is the best way to do it. Links to those you will find in the description of this video. Have a good day. Shalom.